I fear for Tommy, and as a priest, I'm very guarded around what I say, because I minister as a priest, and there's certain things that I can't say. But we've got to fix these political prisoners. It's wrong.
Breaking right now. Finally, a member of the House of Lords has decided to directly question the government on the despicable and, I believe, illegal treatment of the UK's political prisoner Tommy Robinson in solitary at HMP Woodhill. So this came from Lord Pearson of Rannoch. Good guy, former UKIP guy, been connected with Tommy Robinson in the past. And according to Hearts of Oak, he has tabled written questions to the government in relation to Tommy's ongoing solitary confinement and the abuse of Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act 2000 against journalists. Now, Hearts of Oak points out that Tommy's name is not mentioned, as this would give the government reason not to answer because they don't respond to individual cases. Hearts of Oak also say Lord Pearson is the only member of the House of Lords who is concerned at how Tommy is being treated, the only peer. The government now has 14 days to respond. So let me just go now to the questions paper and look what has specifically been tabled by Lord Pearson of Rannoch to the government. So the questions are: how many civil prisoners are held in HMP Woodhill, and of those, how many are kept in its close supervision centre? How long is it lawful for a prisoner to be kept in solitary confinement? What assessment have they made of the psychological impact upon prisoners who spend long periods of time in solitary confinement? How many people are in prison in England and Wales for contempt of court? What assessment they have made of any abuse of Schedule 7 of the Terrorism Act 2000 in detaining journalists. Let me bring in my superstar panel on this, the independent journalist Tom Sullivan and Father Phil Harris. So, Father Phil, you're a big supporter of Tommy Robinson. You have marched for him in the past. How worried are you about his state at the moment in HMP Woodhill? And I guess we should give praise to Lord Pearson for being the first, but also how shameful is it that we only have one member of the House of Commons or the House of Lords who has raised this issue formally at all? Even though I should say Rupert Lowe of Reform UK says that he has written to the Ministry of Justice.
I think, I'm deeply grateful to Lord Pearson. He is a man of integrity, and the way that he's phrased these questions are profound. Now, I have been very deliberate about my support around the political prisoners. And in fact, when I was in London a few weeks ago at the Free the Political Prisoners, I was making the point of the kingdom of God is righteousness, is peace, and is joy in the Holy Spirit. And we don't have peace unless we have righteousness. And that's a fact as a nation. If you have nations that have gone off the rails historically, the first thing that they lose is peace, and the second thing that they lose is joy. And we are really lacking joy in our nation right now. Now, these questions are genius questions that Lord Pearson has asked. Now, how many are kept in close supervision centre? Well, the answer is going to come back one. For how long is it lawful for a prisoner to be kept in solitary confinement? Now, we are told that there is a narrative that Tommy is there for his own good, but that is actually being abused. What assessment has been made of the psychological impact for those that spending long periods of time? And this is my real concern as a priest for Tommy. Now, what I have been very, very clear on is there are things that in the past that Tommy's approach may be not in the right way, but over what he has brought in terms of highlighting the rape gangs. He was right. And he is paying the price now. There's no way that we should have a civil prisoner. We should have a prisoner that for a civil offence, and we've got prisoners that are locked up for tweeting. When we have an MP that's just going into prison for a limited period of time for assault. We have all these political prisoners, and I'm praying and hoping that this puts enough pressure on Her Majesty's government that right can be done by Tommy, and ultimately right, for all those. I mean, so you've got a picture there of one that just breaks my heart. This man, he's dead, because of the course of action that's taken. And there we have, somebody who deleted a tweet.
Lucy Connolly. Yep.
Lucy Connolly. And she deleted a tweet that she made on the spur of the moment. And what was she doing? 2 years, 7 months? Is it?
Yes.
I think.
Yes, Peter Lynch, 2 years, 8 months. Julie Sweeney, about the same. And then yesterday, we saw Mike Amesbury, the Labour MP, who literally punched the lights out of one of his own constituents, go down for only 10 weeks, and he'll be out in 4.
Yeah. And the bit that gets me that in that occasion is he's actually, as a sitting MP, attacked and assaulted one of his constituents who are his employee. That he employs him, and he's assaulted him. And this is just morally wrong. The kingdom of God is righteousness, and we have no righteousness. We just have dishonesty. And I fear for Tommy, and as a priest, I'm very guarded around what I say, because I minister as a priest, and there's certain things that I can't say. But we've got to fix these political prisoners. It's wrong. It is utterly. I'm trying to think of adjectives that are strong enough.
Well, it's inhumane, isn't it? It's inhumane, and it's not something that should happen in our society to an independent journalist. And Tom Sullivan, this is what Tommy Robinson's team have posted today, because it's a significant day. They say Tommy Robinson has now spent 120 days in solitary confinement, legal limit being 15 days, visits banned repeatedly, calls monitored and blocked, food taken, and then the reminder that actually should shame our leaders for showing a film and standing by its content, releasing it for you to decide, not a corrupt judiciary. But first, the reason you're watching this show is because you know that these days it's almost impossible to trust the mainstream media or the so-called fact checkers who claim to patrol social media. And that is for a very good reason. Given the Brexit debate, COVID debacle, demonisation of Donald Trump, Tommy Robinson, the whole thing. But I have found the solution. Ground News. Today's sponsor was created by a former NASA engineer to provide you with the only safe way to consume the headlines. So go to ground.news/outspoken and check it out for yourself. But I'm going to show you now this incredible website and app in action. So let's take the recent game-changing speech by US Vice President J.D. Vance to the Munich Security Conference, where he tore into European governments, including ours here in the UK, for the despicable retraction of free speech. And you can see very clearly on Ground News, which collates the 361 sources in one piece, how the story is being covered by the media, broken down by whether it leans to the left or the right. Now, this is illustrated by what it calls its bias distribution service. Then if you scroll down, you can see every article about the topic broken down by the political position and ownership of the publication. It's so fascinating when you do this, because it shows quite clearly that Newsmax and GB News, considered to be on the right, gave fair and accurate coverage, focusing on how finally J.D. Vance had the guts to point out uncomfortable truths to European leaders. By stark contrast, though, the left-wing HuffPost claimed the speech left all of Europe aghast. It didn't. I promise you it didn't HuffPost. I was like cheering it on. Well, The Independent decided to miss the lead altogether to focus on Vance's joke about Elon Musk, which they claimed bombed. What's more, Ground News actually gets to know you personally. So it provides you with the news stories you're interested in, but also analyzes your own biases. My favorite feature is that it comes up with blind spots, potential blind spots you might not be hearing about in the news because of the corruption of the MSM. Now, look, I know you love the news, but you don't trust the legacy media. That is why you're here. So Ground News gives you the tools to understand the truth about what is going on in the world. It is the only way I read the news now. It allows you to see through media bias and manipulative narratives, no more relying on the MSM to define the truth for you. So go to ground.news/outspoken to check it out. Here's the good news. You can subscribe through my link for 40% off the Vantage plan, which is what I use for unlimited access. Ground News is subscriber funded. Supporting it also supports my work. And for less than a Netflix subscription, you can get all of the world's news in one place and think for yourself. It has been a game changer for a total news junkie like myself. So that is ground.news/outspoken. But now, back to the show.
I mean, I personally don't share Tommy Robinson's brand of politics. I take more of a kind of Farage view on that. And the reason I say that is to not knock him at all. It's because of my next point, which is regardless of me not seeing eye to eye on some of the language he uses or the way that he looks at certain issues, I don't care because he is a political prisoner. It's obvious. So this is their narrative, Dan. He's being kept in solitary confinement for his own safety because our prisons are in such a state that unless he's in a cell in 4 walls for 23 out of 24 hours a day, our prison system isn't able to guarantee his life, right? But then why is he being kept in a prison which is home to some of the most dangerous criminals in the whole world? Why is he for contempt of court? So their narrative has so many holes. It's a Swiss cheese narrative. And he's very obviously a political prisoner. Even worse, I would argue, are those examples that we just discussed just a few minutes ago. And I can only guess and infer that they want people to be scared. They want people to not talk about these issues. And I will always defend Tommy Robinson. And my caveat is not to disassociate myself with him because I don't believe in all the left's horrible, crime by association. It's to say that you don't have to support his brand of politics and go on these rallies and see 100% and agree with every statement he's ever made to acknowledge he's being treated like a political prisoner. So it's disgusting.
Yes.
Dan, Tom, you see, Tom here is right. I get accused, and I've got countless DMs and text messages that are saying you shouldn't be supporting as a priest Tommy Robinson. And people are missing the point. Tommy's smack on. You don't have to agree with everything about a person or their viewpoint for you to actually say what that person is being subject to is wrong. And that's exactly the case.
Totally.
It is wrong.
Totally. And this is where all of our media class get it wrong. All of the elite class get it so wrong. It's like, what has happened to our belief in freedom, our belief in the rule of law, our belief in what's right? And it's something where at the moment, Americans and specifically American conservatives are putting us to shame because they would never allow someone who they disagree with to be locked up for a piece of journalism. We know that the left absolutely would. Look at how they've conducted the lawfare against Team Trump. Seen folk like Steve Bannon locked up, but it's not what conservatives believe in. We fight for the right for people to speak out, even if we don't believe in them. By the way,
Yeah.
for people who keep saying Tommy Robinson is irresponsible as well, look at this latest post. Do not, under any circumstances, protest at Woodhill Prison. Tommy Robinson is being politically persecuted, meaning his treatment is being orchestrated from higher up. Any protest at the facility holding him would be counterproductive. And Liam Tufts, his close friend, also repeating that. So this idea, Father Phil, that he's somehow constantly wanting to cause unrest on the streets simply isn't true.
Well, I'm going to share something that people are not aware now, and I don't think that there's a handful of people up until now that know what I'm about to say, because I think it's important. When I first spoke in Unite the Nation,
Yes.
I was approached to actually speak, and I had a real problem because there was enough going on around me at the time, as there still is. And I actually said, look, I can't be seen to be endorsing Tommy, but I absolutely agree with what Tommy is saying. And Tommy actually said, look, I won't. Now he got arrested the day before, if you remember, but he said, I won't introduce you. If that causes a problem, I won't introduce you. I'm not a narcissist. I'm actually, I want the right thing to be done. He said, but one thing, would you bless as a priest those gathered at the end of the day? Now, that's a man that isn't intent on causing trouble. He just wants the message out there, and he's deeply concerned about what's happened to our women in this nation, as I am. And so these narratives that Tommy is trying to cause unrest, no, what he's trying to do is hold people to account who have behaved abominably, and the evil that's been, that people have been subject to. He wants that coming into the light, and light is the best disinfectant. And you and I, Dan, have said that many times in the past.
Big time. Absolutely. And look, it doesn't matter if you disagree with a journalist's independent work. You're right. Make your own film. Hit back. That's the type of world that we should live in, not this idea of locking people up. And actually, Tom Sullivan, I think Rupert Lowe has been brilliant on this. And we praise Lord Pearson for what he's done in the House of Lords. Let's praise Rupert Lowe for what he's doing in the House of Commons. And overnight, he has also posted on X, if it were up to me, I'd release those currently in prison for stupid social media posts and use those cells to lock up the paedophiles who have avoided a prison sentence. I have no doubt the vast majority of the British public agree with me. And then Basil replied, we do. And Rupert added, leave the ECHR, deport the foreign criminals, jail the British paedophiles. This is the way. And I really hope, Tom Sullivan, that JD Vance and Donald Trump question Keir Starmer about why we have grandmothers and mothers currently behind bars for posts on X and Facebook when we have paedophiles who do not spend a day in jail, because that is a policy that shames the United Kingdom.
I mean, I know some journalists who only after JD Vance's speech actually heard about some of these cases, and these are people who work in the mainstream media. Dan, I don't want to do your job for you and jump the gun, but I actually want to tie it to the next story, just a point that you made. So I don't know if you want to
go on. Do it. You do it.
So, in terms of taking inspiration from America, like they weaponize the justice system in America against Trump, we have here our own kind of form of that. We have two-tier justice and two-tier policing. And like they are fighting back in America, and Team Trump now are starting lawsuits, part of me thinks, maybe we need to do that as well. And that's why I was pleasantly surprised to see that Reform are starting a private prosecution against the business secretary, Jonathan Reynolds, who, as far as I understand, I didn't actually know this, but apparently it is, a crime, or it's illegal at least, to call yourself solicitor when you're not a solicitor. So not only do we have a cabinet which is an entire cabinet which is so distant from the world of business, but together with Reeves and now Reynolds, they can't even be honest about the jobs that they have done. So I think this is great. I think in a way, people say, oh, we shouldn't start a lawfare war and, go down to their level. I think we should see what happens.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.